And no, they could not get sound. Okay, let's try that again. Hello, everyone.
No sound here.
Welcome to the Girls with Sabers live stream. My name is Imrus, and my co-creator and fellow host is Luthien. Say hello, friend.
Hello, everyone has sound now. Yay!
We were just...
Nothing like a little trip before the stream, huh?
That's the Girls with Sabers way, you know, without a struggle. Can we really be Girls with Sabers? Will we cease to exist? I'm being really metaphysical here, but that's okay. That's
Loud
okay.
And clear. Perfect.
Awesome. We already have some wonderful mods in the house. We have Sally Beth and Jordan Davis from the Jordan Davis podcast. We also have Bev Davis doing here, and Cynthia, Rosman, the Lollipop Gamer, Nora, Phantom Siren, just some awesome people. Molly Thomas, Clarissa Kursky, Cynthia, Mike Skrull, Riley, Connie. Oh gosh, guys, thank you.
Joy.
Paige. Yeah, if I missed any of your names, let me know. The chat is going crazy again.
Yep. Smash the like button. Like, give it a good old tap.
Yes. Give it a smash.
Mm-hmm.
I first borrowed that from Sophia Nygaard. Have you ever seen Sophia Nygaard's videos?
Yes.
If you haven't, they're fabulous. They're really good, and she researches the history of things really well as having fun. So it's fun and educational.
Hey, win-win. Win-win.
It just sounded like an OETA PBS person.
The more you know.
The more you know. Da, 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 da. So, friend, after many conversations in this world, we need to talk about something very dear to us, which is the importance of a happily ever after. How about that intro?
It's very important. It's very, very important.
It is. Like, I know some people might think that statement is silly, but really this is essential to the human condition, is having stories that inspire us and give us hope. I mean, that's the whole reason we cry in the Two Towers. We hear Samwise Gamgee say what he has to say.
Yeah. They're the stories that mean something and that matter. Bev Davis with the super sticker. It's my Let's Get Physical pair. I love it.
Yeah.
I love it. Thanks, Bev.
He's feeling those endorphins.
Yeah.
He's like all happy and laughing and jumping.
Yep. So, welcome to the new people joining us in the stream. I see more familiar faces. Pauline, Deflator Mouse. Hello, Tammy. Love it. Emily, Dragon Rebel Rose, listening while working out. Awesome sauce.
Yeah. I was watching Stupendous Wave's newest video about some of the newest animated series. He reported that the new episodes of the Clone Wars received more views than The Mandalorian.
Wow.
So I didn't get to watch it with, it was like something on while I was doing something else. So I couldn't pay attention to it. But there's about 2 new animated series that's coming to Disney Plus, and it's going to be in the same vein as the Clone Wars.
Yeah. Methinks I'm a tad bit intrigued.
Yes.
Hey, Reylo memes with a super chat. Thank you so much. TROS ends with Rey back alone on a desert planet, but now she's a widow too. You don't find that to be a happily ever after? Cry face laughing emoji. I'm actually, Reylo memes, thank you so much for the super chat. I'm actually going to get to that like later on as we're talking. But that's a really good thing to bring up. I just want to touch on it just a scant bit later. But thank you for the super chat, because we will touch on that coming up.
My uncomfortable laughter was for thinking about what Chris Terrio said, that, you know, really George Lucas wouldn't want it to be perfectly a fairy tale ending. Oh gosh, that just hurts me, hurts my soul.
Well, let's start by talking, like, what does it mean to live happily ever after? Well, happily ever after means to spend the rest of one's life in happiness. So it's a hyperbolic phrase, ending many fairy tales, ending many a story. Amy Showers with my Let's Get Physical pair. Again, thank you so much. Keep it up. Thank you, Amy. So stereotypically, those fairy tales are a prince meets a princess or a fair maiden. They fall in love. Bada bing, bada boom. Happily ever after. We've all seen it before in many different versions. Snow White, Beauty and the Beast, Cinderella, Little Mermaid, Frog Prince, Tangled, etc., so on and so forth. And conflicts arise from that. Prince, princess, or maiden, or whoever, stable boy, whatever have you, some type of conflict arises, and they, either the male or the female or both or the group, tackle this obstacle, they overcome it, and then they get the happily ever after at the end. And it wraps up very neatly. And this is the stereotypical happily ever after. And we'll come back to that because it can get deep. But again, to spend the rest of one's life in happiness. I think that's why TROS is so polarizing, is especially at the end, because everyone's version of a happily ever after is different. And that goes back to how we interpret happily ever afters in fairy tales and stories as children. You know, in our experiences when we're young. That's when, as a child, you're being molded to become the person you're going to be. And not that we don't stop learning and molding as we mature and age, but as children, the whole world is in front of us, and our surroundings, you know, dictate our perception of everything. So take the ending of The Rise of Skywalker, that hits a lot of people the same way, but it hits a lot of other people a different way, but it's still happy to them. So we will get into that. But again, I believe that's why TROS is so polarizing. But Albert Einstein said it really, really well. If you want your children to be intelligent, read them fairy tales. If you want them to be more intelligent, read them more fairy tales.
I think he also, like, to me, this is amazing because here is this great man of science, and we think that fantasy or fairy tales are more for children, but no, Albert Einstein is this great theorist, and he said, when I examine myself and my methods of thought, I come to the conclusion that the gift of fantasy has meant more to me than any talent for abstract positive thinking. And I just think, what a incredible thing to say for a man of science and rationale, that the world of fantasy is what helped him and fueled probably his creative mind for writing theories and things of that nature. I think we put down fairy tales too much because there's so many men of great intelligence, like C.S. Lewis, like Albert Einstein, like Jane Austen, men and women who had incredible minds, and they didn't belittle or put down happily ever afters. I mean, Thomas Jefferson, what was the Declaration of Independence? The pursuit of happiness, like that desire for to be happy. And I don't think I think that is the idea of a fairy tale to me, of the happily ever after. Is it doesn't mean that all of your problems go away. It doesn't mean that you cease your struggling. What it means is there's something now in your life that you can hold on to as being a very good thing, or like a hallmark in your life of, yeah, we face many trials, but I remember and I look back at this moment and I'm thankful for it.
Yeah, I see a lot of people referencing Molly Thomas in the chat said fairy tales were actually very scary back in the day. Take the Brothers Grimm reads more like horror stories. And yep, Nora said Grimm brothers were more warnings to children. Exactly. Like, I mean, fairy tales were certainly hardships that were being personified in these tales. And yeah, there were warnings, moral warnings, as well as real life warnings to children and adults. And then when you get into the realm of Disney, that's where it kind of, Snow White being the first, really kind of grabbing these old tales and manipulating them into what they are today. But yeah, they definitely have very, very dark beginnings. Yeah, it's amazing. Sorry, like I paused because I'm just thinking about, a lot of the Grimm's fairy tales and how dark they can get. It's just kind of mind-boggling.
Yeah.
That's not mainstream. Even when we grow up and you dig deeper and you find out that ideology and that fact, it does blow your mind. Like, I always thought, Beauty and the Beast was this, or Snow White was this, or Cinderella was this, and you're like, oh man.
Well, some of them, although they were grim and dark,
Right.
A lot of them were morality tales of like, if you're a good little girl or a good little boy, you'll get good things in the end. If you're a bad little boy or a bad little girl, then you'll have consequences. So like even tales like Cinderella, which are very, very dark and very violent, like the stepsister and the stepmother came to horrible endings, but Cinderella came, had a very happily ever after. So like, I think a lot of the darker elements were more about the consequences of wrongdoing than,
Right.
A lot of it I do think is scare tactics of like,
Of
if you
course,
do this, like, I listened to the Office Ladies podcast where it's Angela and Jenna Fisher who plays Pam in The Office. And you know that book that Dwight reads to the kids during
Yes.
Take Your Daughter to Work Day or Take Your...
Yeah.
They looked into it, and that book is for real German fairy tale book. Like, that is not something that the writers just made up. That is something that they researched and they found. And, like, it talks about all sorts of things. Like, this live stream is not for children, but it talks about, like, if you pick...
This live stream is not for children.
If you pick your nose, like, too far, there's, like, a guy with a little elf with scissors that will chop your finger off, but, But, like, even Shel Silverstein, Where the Sidewalk Ends, even he had something like that in his. So, morality tales and fairy tales, like, really go hand to hand, but there's also a happily ever after for adults as well. Like a lot of our romantic comedies are happily ever afters or dramas. I mean, it's all in that genre of comedy, of a happy ending. Comedy doesn't necessarily mean haha, very funny. All it means is you get a happy ending with comedy. You usually with drama, you get a sad ending. But like even the ancients in ancient Greece, like there was an understanding that there are happy endings and then there are sad endings. I mean, and just because one story ends happily, that doesn't mean that the story ends. Like, the Skywalker saga, Return of the Jedi, ended happily, but the story still continued after that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I'm gonna hit it now. Reylo memes super chat. Like we stated before, for a lot of people, especially Reylos, TROS did not end happily. We wanted to have Ben and Rey together, fixing the line that was broken, bringing back the importance of the family, the sins of the father, rectifying the sacrifices of the mothers, bringing that full circle all the way back to Shmi. Where Shmi sacrificed her son, and, we wanted this all, redemption, you name it, we wanted it for Rey and definitely for Ben Solo. But because of, and I see this a lot on Twitter too, and it's not just people trying to remain positive, but there are so many fans who feel that Rey's ending was happy. There's a lot of things I can't say right now. I mean, no, I didn't sign an NDA, but there are things that, we can't truly discuss. Point being, we don't think the ending of TROS is the one that was originally slated to be, but there are people out there who looked upon Rey at that last shot and saw her looking into the twin suns. And yes, even though the ending piece is called A New Home, these fans feel that that's not truly her real home. I mean, she still has the Falcon. She can still now go anywhere she wants, and she has Finn and Poe, and that's okay. That's okay. I'm not saying it's okay for me, but Milo, get off the table. But, it's okay. It's okay for them. And that's the happily ever after for them. So again, you can make the argument, well, will Rey truly be happy? Yeah, we could make that argument till the cows come home. But for a lot of fans, they see Rey to spend the rest of one's life in happiness. And did she look sad at the end? There's plenty of argument for this. So the ending that was shown to us in theaters, exactly, Danielle just said, the only thing about Rey's ending that's happy is the fact that her new house is more stable and safe. So the outcome, yes, I mean, I think they butchered this dyad thing, because if you lose a dyad, holy cow. But she is safe. She has found a family unit and friends. And for a lot of people, that is a happily ever after that they feel was executed well. But because of a lot of us saw the symbolism and the metaphor and the tropes going in another direction, it's hard. It's hard to latch onto that. Call it heightened expectations, call it speculation run amok to the point where no ending would have been okay for us until we had the one we wanted. Call it whatever you want. But this is because a happily ever after is different for every individual. Yes, we all share the same likes about it, on this channel, but happily ever after has a different meaning for everyone because of how we grew up and what we consumed as media as children. So it's hard for me to dig at an ending that I know made a lot of people happy. You know what I'm saying? Like, because it's all different perspective. And it's okay to not accept that ending, but it's also okay to accept that ending.
I think of course it is, but at the same time, is it an ending that would make George Lucas proud of the story? Is it an ending in the spirit of Star Wars? And to me, it's the full circle of isolation. Like, the imagery that they used was an imagery of like reflecting where she was when we first saw her. She was alone on the desert with a droid. And yes, of course, you can look at that and you can see that she's gazing into the sunset of the twin suns and of the new adventure that is on her horizon. And like, she has a whole galaxy to explore. And I'm not saying that that interpretation is wrong. I'm just saying that if you listen to what Rey is saying throughout the movie, throughout the sequel trilogy, she does not want to be alone. She keeps on saying, I want someone. I want belonging. I want, and of course I'm meaning more about Ben Solo than anybody else. But I feel like The Last Jedi had a better ending for that desire in her than The Rise of Skywalker, because she would be surrounded by the resistance, by her family, by her new home. And to me, and I'm just talking about me and a lot of other people, I feel like it did not answer Rey's greatest need. And therefore, it's not a happily ever after. It does not reflect what Rey wanted. Like, does Rey want a home in the sand? No, what she wanted was like green growing things in Force Awakens. And of course, like, people might romanticize that her home now is the home of Luke Skywalker, and like, now she is at home of she now has the family home. She's inherited that. She gets to live in a house of a legend. Like, I'm not downplaying that. I'm just talking about the language of it. And like, what did George Lucas say? Like, if you end a movie with a couple walking into the sunset, you'll make $1 billion. And I don't know. I feel like that story of The Rise of Skywalker is not something that George Lucas would have wanted the Skywalker saga to end with.
I completely agree. Like, you and I are on the same page, and a lot of fans are on the same page. The beauty of a happily ever after is how uplifting and euphoric it can be to one's soul. So life can suck, but my favorite character got his, her, their happily ever after, and I feel better, if just for a moment. Dopamine, endorphins. This is the same vein of adrenaline junkies, gamblers, etc. It's the same chemical reactions. It reminds me of that Breaking Bad episode, which, I can't remember. I don't think Rian Johnson directed this one, but no matter. If everyone who knows this, well, anyway, main character Walter White goes to Gustavo Fring's house, and I'm not going to talk about it a whole lot because the stream's not for children. But point being, they're having dinner, and Gustavo's made this wonderful meal that is a Chilean meal or South American dish, and he doesn't make it often because his kids don't like it and whatever. But he was saying it's amazing how you get all these ingredients, and by themselves, some are okay, some are just meh, but like, you throw them all together and it creates this dish of just absolute taste and smell, and you eat it and you're instantly flooded with all these memories of childhood and when you first ate it and this and that and the other thing. And of course, Walter comes in and blames, oh, that's the hippocampus, and he's talking very scientific about it. But that's the same thing with happily ever afters. Chemically, your body is having this reaction to what you're viewing or what you know and what you see and what you're analyzing, and the dopamine and the endorphins are coursing through your body. And I think that's what The Last Jedi was for. A lot of us, we saw all these moments and we're excited because, oh my gosh, is the sacrifices of the mothers going to be rectified? Are their children going to come together and get the happy ending? Are Rey and Ben going to come together and get the happy ending that Padme and Anakin were never able to have? Is Leia going to be able to save her son? I mean, so like all these things are happening and coursing through us chemically, and that's natural. It is just absolutely natural. But it's different for everyone, and it's a big high for some people, and it is a big drop in the Force, like gut wrenching. When it doesn't happen. But that's because your body's being taken through this roller coaster of chemical reactions.
Reylo memes with a super chat. Thank you so much. The art book shows the Falcon leaving and her sitting on the house. So I think the novel saying she's going back to her quote unquote family was just damage control. Like, yeah, it's just to me, it's like desert to me epically is a place of sand, a place of infertility, a place of like all Tatooine is to the Skywalkers is a place to get out of. So like all of the imagery, all of the themes in that movie, and I'm just talking to me who like I can't shut off my brain when I'm watching a movie, and I cannot shut off like the imagery, and I cannot shut off. I feel like if they wanted us to see that as a happily ever after, and if people, like you said, if they watch that ending and they're like, this is a happily ever after, like I they are totally legit and however they feel in the taking of that movie. I'm just saying the imagery that they used was used carelessly in the story of Star Wars and in listening to what the character wanted, what Rey wanted. So that's all I think is hard to say. Sally Beth says, we are fighting an emotional war on two fronts. Fantasy should be meaningful and uplifting, inspiring, when the rest of the world seems so bleak. And yeah, like, going back to what George Lucas wanted Star Wars to be, he wanted it to be a fairy tale because he felt like in the 70s, most of the movies were just about grim and dark, hard-nosed anti-heroes that, there was no fairy tales to uplift and inspire. And Luthien, we did a series where we were thinking that if the sequel trilogy ended happily, then that's kind of history repeating itself, because what is happening in movies nowadays, like grit and darkness, like even it's crossed over to even mythology of superheroes, like even superhero movies, especially in the DC train of thought, have been really, really dark, and it feels like that is overtaking, and I feel like even now with Star Wars, the grim and the dark and the feeling like, well, Star Wars doesn't have to have a fairy tale ending. To me, it's just like that Game of Thrones ending is partaking everyone. I feel like if kids are walking out of Star Wars crying and confused, a happily ever after was not given to them. And to me, they are the primary audience that this show is meant for. I know
Girl 8304 sent a super chat. Thank you so much. There is hope, though. The beautiful thing about fiction is we can write our own happily ever after.
Yeah.
which is very true. Allison with a super sticker. Thank you so much. It's the cute little fox waving a little #1 banner. It's adorable. Milo, knock it off.
See, even Milo's crying.
His needs are very selfish, though, so there's that.
But going back to what you were saying, like the release of chemicals in our brains and how like partaking in happily ever afters is actually physically beneficial. It goes back to the power of positive thinking. Like, there is a research study from the Mayo Clinic that, you know, the effects of positive thinking is like an increased lifespan, lower rates of depression, lower levels of stress, greater resistance to the common cold, better psychological. I mean, it's like on and on about like what is the power of positive thinking. Well, stories are positive thinking. Like if you go into a dangerous situation and you think, oh, okay, what would Luke do, or what would Leia do, and you have these positive memories of these positive stories, and they give you encouragement and positivity to go through your trials with hope intact. And to me, that is a fairy tale. It's like you still have hope and joy coming out of the other end of it. There's light at the end of the tunnel.
Reylo memes with the super chat, but we can't watch our own happily ever after on a Dolby screen. That's very true.
We have the Dolby screen of our mind.
Yeah. Close your eyes and imagine.
That's what my English teacher would say. You have the Dolby screen in your mind. You don't need to watch the movie of the book. You have your own mind.
Yeah.
I stumbled upon this incredible professor, and I just wanted to kind of research what other people would say about happily ever afters. This is a podcast by Dr. Tiffany Schubert. It's entitled Virtue, Happy Endings, and the Novels of Jane Austen. And of course, Jane Austen is the blueprint for every modern day romantic comedy right now. Like most romantic comedies are based on one of her books and her formula. I loved what she had to say about happily ever afters. She said, like, this is something that we see throughout history. Like, we don't think of Dante's Inferno or comedy being a happily ever after, but it was. Because, like, what happened to Dante at the very end of the story? Well, he reunited with Beatrice, and he was able to feel and, you know, be in the very center of love in heaven, right next to God. So, like, we think of it dark and grim as he journeys through hell, but the end of the story is a comedy. Like Odysseus had the same issues. I loved what she said about Jane Austen. She said, Jane Austen's Emma and Elizabeth Bennet in her Pride and Prejudice suffer a variety of trials, failures, and setbacks, but in the end, they both fall in love, marry well, and their happiness is complete. I just think that's, how inspiring is that, to know that we can make mistakes in life, we can have our problems, our own issues, but at the same time we can work through them and hopefully learn to love better and to live better at the end of that one arc of your story. It's kind of like what Campbell said. We're all on our own monomyth. We all are on our own journey, and we start that journey and then we end it. But like our life is like thousands of those monomyth cycles. Like it's not just like one, you're on the monomyth journey in one, it's like thousands and thousands. You start one, then you end it. You start another one, then you end it. It's like something that's continuous. So although the prequels had sort of a mixed bag of happily ever after, like we have the birth of the twins and the hope that Luke and Leia bring, but we also have the death of Padme. We have that hope. We have that inkling of hope that is still there. So although Rey's journey ends at Tatooine, and how much that hurts me and hurts a lot of people, we know that her quest is not done, and she can have another monomyth that she re-enters again, and hopefully that monomyth will lead her to her happily ever after.
Like I said, I didn't even realize how big of a Ben Solo stan I was until TROS. Like, oh my god, I want Ben to live more than I want Reylo. That's crazy. Crazy. Who would have thunk? Who would have thunk?
Oh, I was like, I want Ben Nimshin more than I want Reylo. Yeah. And that's, again,
it speaks volumes to that character arc.
Yeah.
That character.
Yeah. Yeah. She quoted Jane Austen, and I love this. Paragons of perfection of women make me sick and wicked. They don't aspire us to virtue. I thought that was awesome. What Jane Austen is saying is basically women in stories that are the perfect model of virtue, they make us sick and wicked because they don't aspire us to virtue, because we're like, they're unattainable. I don't see myself in that heroine. I don't see myself as the spotless, perfect woman. I need women like Emma Woodhouse and Elizabeth Bennet who are flawed and make mistakes, but they learn from those mistakes and they grow and they find grace at the end of their journey. I just think that is... it's so wonderful for Jane Austen's point of view of what a happily ever after is.
Mm-hmm. I agree. Sorry, I just agree.
Yeah, Sally Beth is like, but it's still okay to want both. Yeah, I wanted both. I wanted the whole enchilada. I wanted everything. And again, this stream is not to argue about TROS. It's to defend the need and the want of happily ever after, because I think that is one of the things that is the new argument against Reylos is, oh, you silly Reylos, you just want a happily ever after, and how childish and how blah 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 that is. Well, let's look at great men and women of history and see this common thread, and this common thread of happily ever afters that are in great works of fiction, great works of literature. So it's not just the dread and dismal of bad, of dramas. It's also comedies that can be great and epic and inspirational and significant. So don't let anyone bully you to say that you must be simple-minded to like a happily ever after, because you have Jane Austen and Albert Einstein in your corner saying, right,
exactly.
Fantasy.
You have Neil Gaiman going, fairy tales are more than true, not because they tell us that dragons exist, but because they tell us that dragons can be beaten.
Yeah.
Terry Windling says, fairy tales were not my escape from reality as a child, rather they were my reality. For mine was a world in which good and evil were not abstract concepts, and like fairy tale heroines, no magic would save me, unless I had the wit and heart and courage to use it wisely.
Exactly. It reminds me of Anna Green Gables, and like Anne went through so much dark and trying times being an orphan and being abused in those situations. But then she had Emily in the glass, like her reflection, and Emily was her bosom friend, her kindred spirit, until she met Diana. And yes, that escapism can be a handicap to your development, but at that point in time for Anne, that was her salvation. That was her ability to get through the hardships that she had, so she can live and be the person that she was meant to be.
Paige asked, have you ladies seen the new Emma? Gosh, it's fabulous. Fun fact, we have, and this Friday we're recording a podcast about it. Because I freaking adored it.
Oh, it's awesome. It's awesome. It's awesome. It's awesome.
You know what? I'm going to be honest. I didn't think I was going to like it, but I really did. I loved it. Loved it. Loved it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I love a happily ever after. So, I also think it's, trying to think of how to introduce this topic because we've skipped around so much, but
yeah, I'm sorry.
It's okay. Like the way that we do things is I have an outline, and because it's the forward
doesn't have an outline. I have my notes down right here. Like I had 2 pages,
but I'm like my outline is gone.
I flew by the seat of my pants, and I'm sorry.
That's okay. So I'm looking back at my outline of like, how can I transition back to this?
Just start. No one cares. Everyone's here. Everyone's a friend here. Just go back to it.
David, no apologies needed. I was just trying to explain my awkward silence as me trying to formulate how I can get back there without losing people. But going back to George Lucas, the reason that he would not let Harrison Ford die, or Han Solo die in Return of the Jedi, is he was afraid to do that to the children who wanted to play with his toys, because they would not want to play with a character that just died in Return of the Jedi. In fact, like I found this article, how did toy cells save Han Solo's life in Return of the Jedi? He talked about how we had an outline and George changed everything in it. Instead of bittersweet and poignant, he wanted a euphoric ending with everyone happy. The original idea was that they would recover Han Solo in the early part of the story, and that he would then die in the middle part of the film in a raid on an Imperial base. George then decided he didn't want any of the principals killed. By that time, there were really big toy stores, and that was the reason. And Nora and I were talking about that. We're talking about how, like, you can really see kids with their play of how they have partaken and digested the new Star Wars, and the figurines that they used. Like, one of my favorite stories is when Aaron Quentin's little boy wanted a redeemed Ben Solo. So Anakin Skywalker, he grabbed Anakin Skywalker's legacy lightsaber and just gave it to Ben. And how beautiful is that? That those kids do exactly what Sally Beth and a lot of us are doing, where we make up our own happily ever after, and in doing so, we tried to heal what the movie did not. And I agree with you, Reylo memes. Like, I wish I could have seen it in Dolby Digital, but for now I have to make do with the Dolby Digital in my mind.
Hey, we got a Dolby Digital kiss, y'all.
Oh yeah, we did. Yeah, we did.
Rain that down on me like snowflakes, like the first fresh snowfall. Like, that was so good.
Yeah. Nora said, yeah, like I said, how can kids play with the toys in TROS? Like, the only thing that I can think of is they could play with the little droid store and take their little droids to get repaired. But that's like how, and I guess they could do the Solo shrug. But modeling the way that they play is the way that they can see if they're satisfied with the Rise of Skywalker and if it fulfills their happily ever after journey.
That's why I loved the ending of The Last Jedi, where you literally had children playing with toys they fashioned, telling the story of Luke Skywalker on crate, staring down the First Order. I mean, I almost wish that would have been the ending of TROS, in some respects, because it was so brilliant of Ryan doing that, and because he's such a master of that, bringing it full circle. You see that in almost everything he does. It was so good. Children in the darkest, one of the most darkest, grim circumstances, still playing with these toys and having hope, and Broom Boy, and seeing, the Falcon shoot off into light speed and wondering what exactly, but the possibilities were endless. I mean,
Well, that's what I was saying. I wish that the Rise of Skywalker ended like The Last Jedi did. Like, it ended with Rey being with her family in the Falcon, and it ended with the kids on crate playing. Like, I wish there was more community. Like, if Ben Solo had to die, and if like that was something that they were firmly wanting to do, which, I disagree with that with every fiber in my being, but if that's what they had to do, like, I wish at least Rey would have ended surrounded by the people that she loved. That was my hope. But JXEditor did that. He did a few edits of different endings of The Rise of Skywalker, featuring our lovely Luthien as Rey.
Hi, everyone.
But he ended one of them with the kids reenacting the crate battle scene.
Yes. It I love that he ended it that way. I felt excited, and not because I was, I got to see it before everyone else saw it, but when I saw that ending, I loved it. I loved that he ended that edit that way, because it left. You could say that the ending of TROS that we got in theaters left everything open to possibilities. Someone can make that argument. Of course, it's there. But the full circle of ending the movie with this child looking up into the stars and the heavens, and it was so cool. And then, of course, he did the Rey Palpatine ending, and this stream isn't for children. It was so badass. I'm not gonna lie. I almost liked that more in a way, because it was just so cool. And then, her eyes get Sith red. I'm just like, oh my god, this is so awesome.
Well, that could that could have been that could be a possibility where they could go, like, because Palpatine did want her to strike him down. That way he could enter her. And I'm talking about spiritually. I'm not talking,
Everyone knows.
So what if he did at that point? And she becomes Dark Rey, and the only person to balance her would be if her dyad comes back.
Well, that would have been a sweet middle part, like the lead up, like middle part of the film. All of a sudden, oh my God, Rey's got Palpatine, like literally has Palpatine in her, and Ben's got to save her. Like, and now Ben has to plead to the whole resistance, Finn and Poe to like, no, I'm good. Hi. Like, he who fights with me shall be my brother, Henry V, like, have that moment, and then boom, go in and save Rey.
Well, no,
I spouted that, like, tons of podcasts ago where I wanted that, like, oh, something happens to Rey, and boom, Ben's gotta rise up and, like, go at it, like, mid-film.
But that's what I'm saying. They could still do that, because how the ending is she did kill Palpatine. So where did his spirit go? And, technically she is half clone. So what if Palpatine is inhabiting her? She starts, becoming dark. And then the Force, because Ben is the other side of her dyad, the Force, like, has to send Ben back in order to save Rey.
Truly balance, yeah, because she doesn't have anyone to balance her. She's going dark. Palpatine's taking over. Oh. Speaking of awesomeness, and happily ever afters, we have new merch.
Oh yeah, we do. Yeah, we do. Speaking of Jane Austen and
happily ever after,
the need of happily after tea, we decided to do another teapot design. So this is our new design. It's the Jane Austen happily ever after teapot, where instead of it saying Reylo tea, let me zoom in for you. In the Steam, it says happily ever after team with the cameo. With the cameo of Jane Austen right there saying hi to you. So we wanted to kind of announce that we're going in the Jane Austen realm of discussion, and talking about the heroines that inspired us in their happily ever after story, and talk about the significance of them, and talk about those Henri Byronic heroes that they fall in love with, and how they are all on the journey of self-discovery, and their imperfections are what attracts the other and what helps the other become a better person. The only time I can think of a Jane Austen story that doesn't end happily is, and spoiler alert, so if any of you know, I don't want to know this, then, this is your time to just mute for a second. But Sanditon does not end happily. It ends with the heroine parting from her quote unquote Darcy. But the thing is that Jane Austen never finished that story. So you have this again, like everything has to end disappointing and gritty and dark. You have that Game of Thrones, gritty and dark, creeping its way even into Jane Austen.
But we know that would not have been her real ending, so
Yeah. So that is not Jane Austen. That is not, that's Andrew Davies, who decided to go his own way, pull a go your own way. I'm trying to think of the band who did that, and now I completely derailed my mind.
Fleetwood Mac.
Thank you. All of a sudden I had that song in my head, and now I'm like, what? I couldn't remember the rest of my sentence because I was trying to figure out who sang that song. Oh my gosh. Oh. I was just providing a song for you to sing, Luthien, because, we cannot finish a podcast without you singing something.
You can go your own way, go your own way.
Except for you, Andrew Davies.
I don't do it nearly as well as Lindsay Buckingham. Just saying. It's fine. It was horrible. I'm sitting down, cross-legged on the floor.
You didn't have
I'll get my drum set.
You didn't have the breast support that you needed. I totally get it. I totally get it. Yeah, the Phantom Siren said that he wrote it with season 2 in mind, but unfortunately they didn't get one. Yeah, I know that, but I still feel like they should have at least given it a written epilogue or something that would given us closure that they did end it. Or if there was any doubt that they were ending the story, it's just this feeling of Jane Austen films or a Jane Austen story should never make you feel disappointed in it, because Jane Austen felt like her heroines should get everything they wanted, because she herself did not receive a happily ever after. She never met her Darcy. She was never married. She lost the woman, the man that she loved, that she wanted to get married to. He had to marry another due to family obligations, but she died of breast cancer, pretty impoverished. So to her and her life, her Dolby Digital mind, the stories that she wrote for heroines was her escape from the life that she led, and what fed her the joy and the wit that Jane Austen is known for. Those stories are so inspirational and inspiring that they are her writing desk. Jane Austen's writing desk is in the British Museum in the same room as the Magna Carta. So again, don't make you feel like a happily ever after is for children, because Jane Austen didn't feel that way, and her writing desk is in the same room as the Magna Carta.
Yep. Amy with a super chat. Thank you so much. I'm confused about the earlier reference to Rey being a widow. Well, a lot of us call what happened in The Last Jedi in the hut scene with their hands over the fire, the finger touching, is a symbolic marriage in the Force. In many religions, Hinduism being one of them, a hand fasting Celtic religion, your hands meeting over a fire is symbolic of union and of marriage, and especially being dyads in the Force now, and this, that, and the other things. So it transcends even marriage, but because Ben, quote unquote, died and sacrificed himself so she could live, a lot of people call her practically a widow. So that's what that reference is for, Amy. But thank you so much for your question and your super chat.
Well, and you also have the language of what does a dyad mean? Two that are one. Well, that's how people in almost all cultures used to describe a marriage, that there are two people that are actually considered one. And even Chris Terrio said that they're soulmates. Well, the whole Greek myth of what a soulmate is, that we were once, in Greek mythology, we were once one being, and we PO'd Zeus So in Zeus' punishment, he split us into two separate beings. And so we go through our whole life trying to find our soulmate to make us one again. And like, that's the whole origin of a soulmate. So for Chris Terrio to say that they're soulmates, that is a pretty significant confirmation that Reylo is a romance.
Oh my God, Riley just blew my mind. Musical theater fans, who thinks Daisy Ridley would make an amazing Lucy and Jekyll and Hyde? Maybe Adam could play Jekyll or Hyde.
All I have to say is if David Hasselhoff can play Jekyll and Hyde in the musical, Adam Driver can play Jekyll and Hyde.
I know who's like balls crazy was Sebastian Bach of Skid Row. I freaking loved him in Jekyll and Hyde. Loved him. I don't care what anyone else says. I loved that.
Do you know the same composer? I'm going to kick myself. Frank Wright. Frank Wright, who wrote Jekyll and Hyde, also wrote The Scarlet Pimpernel, the musical of The Scarlet Pimpernel. Yeah.
Muy interesante.
So if any of you were on Twitter, we had a discussion of our favorite movies, and I think it was you, Jedi Princess K, where you were talked about how the Scarlet Pimpernel is one of your favorite heroes. And so I just got really excited, and so did other people in this community and in this live stream, and we were all excited about our love for the Scarlet Pimpernel. So if you love happily ever after movies and you love high romance, go and rent the Scarlet Pimpernel.
Can you imagine Ryan Johnson doing Scarlet Pimpernel?
I want
Nora just said that.
Can you think of, I think Tom Hiddleston would make the perfect Percy Blakeney / Scarlet Pimpernel. And in fact, there was a interview that they had at Comic-Con where someone asked him if you could play the Scarlet Pimpernel or Scaramouche or Captain Blood, if they made a remake of one of those three movies, who would you want to play? And he said Scarlet Pimpernel.
It's fate.
It is.
It's Providence.
It's Providence.
So it be written, so let it be done.
Exactly. Oh, and Adam Driver can play Chauvelin.
Oh, everyone, the edit we were talking about before, the editor himself is in here, JXEditor. Click on his little thumbnail, and that will take you to those two video edits he did where you have Rey Solo at the end, and then you have Rey Palpatine. And JX, thank you so much for indulging me and messaging us, talking about it, and it was an honor to voice for you, man. After this stream, I'm going to work on another one, so... I barely got home to make this stream. But yeah, JX does great video edits. So you all click his little thumbnail and hop on over to watch those. They're great. And the link will be provided in the description of this stream after it uploads. Both links.
So Tom Hiddleston as the Scarlet Pimpernel, Adam Driver as Chauvelin, because like Chauvelin is kind of like the seducer. The French seducer. So who would play Marguerite?
Oh my God. Sorry. Yes, JX, if you can link it in the chat right now, those two edits, that would be great. Oh my God, Marguerite. Okay. Oh my God. I don't know.
Anyone have any suggestions? I mean, Daisy Ridley could play her, but
She could do it.
Yeah, she could. I just don't know. I think there should be somebody that has a little bit more of a exoticness about them. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Whoever the chick who plays Yennefer in The Witcher, she could do it. I can't remember her real name, but she plays Yennefer. She could totally be Marguerite. She's got dark, like, silky black hair. She's very confident, yet she can be meek too. I think she could do it. Yes, Sally Beth. Yes, she was just thinking. Oh, yes. Yeah. Yep. Anya. Yeah, Anya Shalatra. If that's how you pronounce it. Yeah. She could totally do it. Totally.
Yes. Jedi Princess K is like saying some literary truth. Different. The books are different from the movie. The ending is not the same. No, it's not. Like for the BBC version, they cut it into the first half of the movie is the Scarlet Pimpernel. The second half is the end from El Dorado. And so for book purists, that's like something you do not do to a movie or a book.
Hey, JX, try sending the link again. And hopefully it'll go through and we can click it. Because, yeah, we have to approve links coming through.
Yeah, Sense and Sensibility Pattern says we need a faithful Pimpernel film. Yeah, I agree.
That's true.
Yeah. Yeah. So our Reylo recovery is beginning, folks. Yay!
Reylo recovery has commenced.
And this is the beginning of a brand new day. Yay! The importance of a happily ever after is to feed your soul and help you better. And that's what we need in these horrible times is we need stories that are going to encourage us and not bring us down. So we're going to talk about some Jane Austen, maybe throw some Scarlet Pimpernel in there. I don't know. But it's going to be happily ever endings from this time on through the series. So we hope you join us. And, you know, we might introduce you to some stories that are new to you and that will fill that need that you have for happily ever afters and good romance.
Yes. I can just break it up. Okay, JX, hold the phone. I'm going to post your links real quick. If you can put the picture of our new Happily Ever After merch up, yeah. I can send everyone the link to that for our TeePublic page. It'll be on sale for roughly 2 days. And all of the merch dealing with a Happily Ever After tea will be 35% off. For 2 days.
2 days, yeah.
Just the new stuff, unless a sale happens, which we don't know about. But, yeah, for 2 days, this Happily Ever After merch, which I just sent the link for, and that'll also be in this description, will be on sale, 35% off, because it's a new design. Hey-o!
Yes, and we do have another version of the Reylo tea. Instead of our cameos on the teapot, we have one of Ben and Ray's cameo on that teapot. So there should be another one for you to see. So go check it out. We never announced it, so I'm just throwing it out there now that we have a new Reylo tea cameo design for your enjoyment.
Yes. Hold on, I'm providing the link for the JXEditor video. This is the Ben Solo Lives link. Whoops, hold on. Why can't I? There we go. All right.
Yes.
There's that one.
Oh, I have Ben Solo Lives design.
I just put it in there.
See? Wow. Oh, Dragon Rebel Rose says, I'm watching Labyrinth to heal my soul right now. It was just announced, I believe yesterday, that they're making a Labyrinth 2. I can't remember. I'd have to look on our Twitter announcement of who is directing it. But I believe it is the person who was part of The Exorcist of Emily Rose. So I have to imagine it's going to get pretty dark. Yeah, it says Scott Derrickson set to direct Labyrinth sequel for TriStar Pictures and Maggie Levin to write the script.
Interesting. Guys, here's the second link for JXEditor's 2 video edits. This link that I just provided is the link for his Rey Palpatine ending. So, yeah. Cosmic Girl with the super chat. Thank you so much. I just want to thank you girls and everyone here for being a great and hopeful community. Love you all so much. Thank you, Cosmic Girl.
Thank you so much. That's what we're trying to do.
Patron.
Yes, we have some awesome patrons and patrons. I promise this was not what we were going to talk about this, but it's just a lovely transition. I can't help it. But we have an exclusive design that only patrons can buy that we're going to reveal to them in a coming live stream very soon.
Yep. Patreon exclusive design, because our patrons are awesome. All 107 of them. They've been absolutely amazing. And I mean, everyone, our subscribers and our followers have been so supportive to each other, to us during this pandemic. But our patrons have really, really, they kept the coffers a little bit full, and that was so incredibly helpful. Just like all these super chats are so incredibly helpful. My first day back at work was yesterday, and it's very overwhelming. Like, I was doing everything from muscle memory, I swear to God, but still, like, unemployment hasn't kicked in because we're self-employed with the channel, because we're an LLC. So because of that, I have to claim self-employment for unemployment, and because there's like hundreds and hundreds of thousands of people filing, they haven't called me to ask me about what that self-employment entails. So for over 6 weeks, more like 8 weeks, 8.5 weeks, I have not received unemployment. So all of your super chats, all of the Patreon money and it's not a whole lot, but it has helped. It has helped so much, and it's helped both Em and myself. It's just phenomenal, absolutely phenomenal. So thank you all so much, and we have a special thank you for our patrons as far as T Public Design coming really, 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 really soon, and I mean like in the next couple days. Yeah. Speaking of designs, Jedi Princess K asks, will you put the Reylo Claddagh up next St. Patrick's Day? I want one now. And yes, we may release it again before St. Patrick's Day, but yeah, the plan is St. Patrick's Day, the Reylo Claddagh will be released, but we might throw in a special day. Who knows?
We have
Let's see it before St. Patrick's Day.
We have a couple of other super chats, guys. Thank you so much. Reylo Meme says, I forgot to bring it up earlier, but I hate when people say it'd be selfish for Rey to try and bring Ben back somehow. I agree. What do you think, Luthien?
Again, it's all your perspective of it. Personally, I think if that's what she wants to do and that's her agency, by God, that girl's gonna get her man. So I'm fine with that. I don't truly like get upset when people say they don't want that, but I know for me and a lot of other people, you know, that's what we would love. That's what we would love to see. We'd love to see how she does that and how that comes to pass. Damage needs her husband back, just like Sally Beth said. Nora sent a super chat too. Thank you so much, Nora. She says, thanks for this uplifting live stream, ladies. May we all have our own happily ever after.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Amen.
We talked about a lot of articles and referenced some things, and we will try to have all of those links below in the description after the stream is posted. And I know some of you are asking about the Labyrinth 2 announcement. I will have that link below when the live stream is published. Sometimes it takes about 30 minutes to an hour to publish it. We don't know why. YouTube just likes to YouTube is a perfectionist and wants to make sure that you get the very best version of the stream.
Patient.
Yeah.
See what I did there?
Yes, very good, very nice. We have Darth Revan in the house. We haven't had Darth Revan in forever. Speaking of
Kylo Ren in here earlier too.
The Dark Lords have graced us with their presence. They knew that we were announcing the Byronic hero Happily Ever After, and they're like, "Oh, we need to show up."
Yep. They're like, Rey Palpatine? Ooh. Friends, we do have to bid adieu for now, but we hope you loved this live stream. We hope you had a wonderful time. And stay safe. Wash your hands. Social distance. Make wise choices. Anything else, friend?
I don't think so. Again, we really appreciate every single one of you. All forms of support mean a lot to us. Just being part of this community, watching live streams, watching podcasts, making encouraging comments. Like I said before, I have a folder of encouragement that I put in there of comments and letters that you have written us. And those are my happily ever after moments that I look through and read it and go, oh, remember that time? It was so good.
So encouraging. And on all platforms, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, Tumblr, Patreon, here on YouTube, in our community tab. Talking with you all is just such a treat. It really is. And there's more to come. We ain't done by a long shot, so.
No, we're going to keep this happily ever after train a-going, you know. Choo-choo. So thank you, everyone. Get on board the happily ever after. I don't know why, but you find that hysterical.
I love when you say choo-choo.
Choo-choo.
It's so monotone.
Yeah.
So it's not like, you know, the hot tamale train, like, it's like, you know, the great train, choo-choo.
I blame Lisa Loeb. Lisa Loeb has the perfect kids CD. It was the only thing I could stand listening to with my nephews. And she has a train song and she goes, choo, choo.
Great.
So
it's great.
Yeah, you're like, I don't really need to know that information. But if any of you have children or nephews or nieces or want to listen to some really good children's music, go check out Lisa Loeb. She's awesome.
Sally Beth has a fanfic. Yep, quickly link it in the description. I know Jedi Princess K is working on a fanfic. Link it real quick in the description or in the comments. If the live chat ends, link it in the comments below, and everyone take a gander because it's good reading. Good reading. Thank you all to our moderators.
Yes.
Sally Beth, Jay Rossi, Yovo's in the house, even though I don't know if we called Yova out, but Yovo is in the house as well. We had Jordan Davis in here, Amy Showers, all of our other mods too. Thank you so much. And yeah, peace, love, and Reylo always. Save Ben Solo.